Fresh is the word.
Hey, Lena, how you doing?
Hi, doing great. How are you?
Doing great. I'm doing great. Everybody, this is Lena Scissorhands. She is the vocalist, the writer for the metal band Infected Rain, straight out of Moldavia, and they just released their newest album called Ecdysis on Napalm Records this January. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Still have my coffee. So just enjoying the morning. How are you?
Yo, I'm doing good. I'm here in Michigan. It's kind of cold still. There's it's cold and windy and very much disrespectful with that wind.
Okay.
So, how's everything going? There's been you got the new album out. How's the now that things are starting to open up in the doing shows, you're about to get guys going on a North American tour starting in May. So how you feeling these days about finally getting back out there and being able to play this music? I know you've already done some shows, but how does it feel?
Well, we haven't done too many shows, unfortunately, since the craziness happened. We only had one tour in literally 2 years and a half or 2 years and 3 months. So it was kind of not enough, of course. And it's a little bit chaotic because this year we have to catch up with shows that were postponed and also newer shows, newer tours, because we just released the album and the demand is growing when a band has something fresh, So it's a little bit chaotic. We are trying our hardest to make everything work because honestly, we are starting our European tour in a week exactly. And I'm already packing to leave for Europe. We start in Belgium and we are going to have an entire month run in Europe. And then seriously, 5 days apart. We have only 5 days to travel to North America, breathe for a second and start over. So we will go ahead and start our North American tour, and then only 10 days after we start our summer festival season, which is normally the entire summer filled with festivals and some club shows. So it's a little bit more chaotic than we would be used to even before COVID. We always had a lot of touring and a lot of traveling, but they were more spread apart in a way.
Right.
But I'm not complaining right now. I'm very excited, although I know it's going to be challenging and hard, but I'm super, super excited to be back on the road with my brothers from Infected Rain and meeting all the older fans, newer fans, it's exciting for sure.
With the new album Ecdysis, like what did you guys want to really accomplish with this new album? And did you feel like that you were able to really put everything into it that you wanted to?
Yeah, we are very satisfied with the result. We did not have a specific goal before we started writing. We never really do. I know some bands go with a plan and one specific theme or atmosphere or whatever mood of the album. We didn't really ever plan anything like that before, and we didn't do it with this album either. However, during the recording process and composing process, we kind of had a couple of, points that we really wanted to make sure that we achieve those little goals here and there throughout the album. For example, the whole idea of Postmortem Part 1 being the opening song of the album and Postmortem Part 2 being the closing song of the album. That was obviously planned, but the idea came while we were recording. Then, me being the writer of the lyrics, I feel like I have a lot of freedom and a lot of trust from my bandmates when it comes to the mood and the emotion itself that this album is going to deliver. I write mainly based on my own life experiences and ups and downs of my own journey, and uh, you know I feel like because of when it was written and when it was composed, it has a lot of things to say, because the entire planet was going through such a metamorphosis, such a big and stranger to us feeling, like not even our parents or grandparents ever went through something like this before
Right.
in their generations, so the entire planet somehow was hurting. And I'm not only talking about the human beings, I'm talking about the nature itself with its animals and everything. There were so many fires and
Right.
we lost so many beautiful places in the world that were, and then when it comes back to people, we had so many riots and there's wars and all that, kind of all one after the other, or sometimes simultaneously. So yeah, I had a lot to say for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned about nature. There's a lot of things going on. Like you said, with we're losing forests that are on fire. There's a lot of things, but like when we were going through the beginning stages of the lockdown during the pandemic, you saw you got a glimpse of how people and how things are set up affect nature, because when everything was locked down, you saw nature healing itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people that refuse to see that are fools, seriously, because it was so in your face. It was in your face because everybody was forced to sit home and not drive around to go to work, or have these gatherings with other people, no matter what the gathering goal was. Definitely less pollution, less human invasion is making the nature thrive for sure. But now, like when people ask me this question, they're like, okay, so what do we have to do? Stay in lockdown all the time? Of course not. But we have to learn and respect that nature is doing way better without us, way better, because all we do is take. But instead of taking and being respectful and thankful in return, we are disrespecting the nature by having so much garbage around, by overusing, over consuming, by there are so many things. I can go on and on. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but excessive fishing, excessive hunting, there's so much. And seriously, I'm not discovering a new world right now. This is a known fact, a demonstrated fact. For years and years, there are documentaries, there are podcasts, there are books, and people that are aggressive towards me or towards people like me that sometimes suggest nicely things like that. I think they should just take a moment and maybe do the research and understand that this is not something I invented or you invented. This is the reality that we all live in. But some people just choose to be blind to the reality. But hey, it's, how do I explain? I understand that certain things were taught to us, and it's the way of the society to have things easy. Like, for example, when the one use only, everything was created long ago, right? Everything out of plastic that you can open, use once, throw away, right? It was created like something super new. It blew up. Everybody was so in fave about it, makes life easier, traveling easier,
Right.
easier. But there are alternatives. They won't change your life. All you have to do is wash after yourself. Excuse me for a second. I'm so sorry. Excuse me.
All good. Take a minute here while she tends to her dog to say thank you for everybody who is tuned in right now. Fresh as the word TV. Lena Scissorhands from Infected Rain.
Excuse me, I had a very important delivery I had to sign. So sorry about that. So yeah, like this is pretty much it. And you're totally right. It was blank and plain and so easy to see that the nature does not need us. We need nature.
Right. Like I remember a long time ago, the comedian George Carlin, rest in peace, God, he was saying all these things like everybody's saying, save the planet, save the planet, save the planet. And he's like, screw that. The planet's doing just fine. It's the people who need to change.
Yeah, people need to change for sure. I will disagree with this, with the thing that, the planet doesn't do fine because of the people. Without the people, planet is thriving. 100%,
right.
Yeah. So it's like, imagine that you have guests in your house, right? Yes. And they are disrespectful towards your house and they leave trash around, don't wash after themselves, or they're not grateful. They, destroy your property. It's pretty much the same. We never think about it, but it's exactly the same.
Definitely. On this, on this new album, what were some other things that you personally just wanted to get off your chest that you were able just to put down on pen and paper for this album?
Many things actually. This album, just like other albums prior to this one, have it has a lot of themes and it touches certain very sensitive topics. I know not for me only, a lot of people can relate to that as well. I wrote about depression. I wrote about the fear of abandonment. I wrote about the greediness that I witness, from some people that I even cared about very much. The constant search is a big theme in my lyrics in this album as well. Constant search for something better, ignoring what you have already. So those people that they are hard workers, hands down, they are. However, whatever they achieve and whatever they are in life, they're never happy. They're never satisfied. They always think that the neighbor has it better, or another country is better, or maybe if I'm going to be with another person, I'm going to be better. Stuff like that. These are just examples, but we totally know at least one person, either in our family or in a group of people that we consider friends, that is like that. We at least have one, all of us. That is right?
Right.
So
right.
I chose to write about it because it was something that hit me very hard, and witnessing that in a person that I cared a lot at the time was not easy, and dealing with that was not easy, and in general, accepting that this could be a reality is not easy. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I think, there's people who are just that, the grass is always greener type people.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also always have those people that they almost need that endorphin rush on a regular basis. For me, my record collection is based off my endorphin rush. I'm buying records and just to but a friend of mine was like, records are not always going to cure that void that's in you. And I was like,
okay, well, but this is a little bit different because I think that being passionate about one or two or even 5 things in life and collecting them or caring about them or studying them is completely different than ignoring, emotion, ignoring energy, ignoring people that you already have and already love you, and you got it all. But still, you're unhappy, and don't get me wrong. Sometimes this means that this is not really what you want in life. But then you have to know what you want in life, and not screw everybody else and ruin everybody else's lives and make everybody worry if that's your family or friend or whatever, But when you have no idea and you just jump around different people's lives, and impact different people, and then just trash them like garbage, or stuff like that is when values, but basically what I'm trying to say is, unfortunately, the people that I am trying to point out here are people that have very wrong values. Their values are very off, and things that they value the most are materialistic, which is very, very sad, because, you know, when you die, you can't take anything with you. And that's what postmortem is about. It's about this hitchhiker, this person that is constantly looking for something and values materialistic world way more than, you know, everything else that matters the most. And that's why I say all the things you have don't belong to you. They don't belong to this world. They are not a part of you, because things that we wear and we own, they are nice luxuries to have, but appreciate them, you know, cherish them. Don't get greedy about more, better, expensive, or whatever. And then all of a sudden you look around and you feel lonely. You're like, I don't have friends, or, oh, nobody loves me. Well, maybe there's a reason.
Right. And recently, Denzel Washington said, you never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. Exactly. You can't take it with you.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. And don't get me wrong, as I said, you only live once, and you work so hard. You have to, of course, as well, find that happy medium, the balance between, you know, the things that you surround yourself in your house, in your group of friends, in everything, you know. Of course, you have to have things that are pleasant to your eye, to your mind. That is also very curing, the buy your favorite book and cherish it and read it. You know, don't just collect books because you want to seem and look smart.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference, because both these people will buy the book, one to actually read it and maybe learn something, or just read it and you know, like, have their own conclusions and whatever. The other will buy the same book, for example, just to put it out there, so the friends that come over will be like, oh, she or he is smart, you know, or something. I don't know. It was just a very basic example, of course.
Right. Okay, so, you know, you and the band are from Moldova. That's on the border of the Ukraine. We all know what's going on. What's your thoughts about this right now? You know, because it's right on the border of Ukraine, and this is all happening.
Okay,
right now.
So I will start this by saying that I would prefer not to talk too much about politics or anything. Obviously, we understand that when we talk about situations this drastic, this is not only about politics, it's about people and their lives. And I have a lot to say about it, but I will be very brief, and I will say this. My band mates, they have relatives in Ukraine. Because of Moldova being territorially touching Ukraine in years and generations, people move a lot, you know, and there are families that have a parent from Ukraine and a parent from Moldova, or both parents from Ukraine and they move to Moldova, or vice versa. Some Moldovan, people would move to Ukraine and live there. So what I'm trying to say is this connects us so much, and it touches us more than some people think. Now, all I can say here is that this is insane. What's happening right now in the world, in that specific area of the planet especially, is insane. And mainly it is because this is another good example of greediness of people in charge, right? But this has happened throughout history so many times. And what blows my mind is that we are in 2022 and it's still happening. You know, and the people can't find the balance and the perfect, agreement between themselves. And it comes to this, you know, all I tried to do since this started was sharing as much helpful information for the people that lost their homes and have nothing to eat. And obviously, I'm not a politician. Obviously, I'm not anybody that can change the situation. But all I can say is I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everyone that is suffering right now. I'm sorry for all the Ukraine families that are losing their relatives, their children, their house, their investments, their businesses, everything. I'm sorry for all the people that died. I'm sorry for all the people that are going to be scarred for life. I'm sorry for everybody from my country that are losing relatives. But I'm also very sorry for people in Russia that just woke up to this in a way, because this decision was not people's decision. And I have friends and fans and band musician friends, different bands in both countries, Ukraine and Russia, and I keep in touch with them, and it's crazy to hear all their stories, and it breaks my heart because a lot of people in Russia are also suffering, and they are heartbroken. They cry all the time because of the cruelty of their own government. And I want the world to know and acknowledge that this is not about automatically hating an entire nation, Of course it's not. And I know a lot of you understand this. And I understand this. And no matter how much hate and how much pressure you put on me online for not talking about war, which I'm getting a lot every single day. No matter how much you will write to me about that, I will still have the same opinion. I am for the people.
Yeah.
I am not choosing a side here. Of course, what the government did is insanely tragic, and it's insane to support that. It's insane to support death like that. It's insane. And if you ask me about things that happened back in the day in the history, I would have the same answer about every single country. I have relatives in many countries, and half of my family comes from Armenia. Armenian people, they suffered so much throughout centuries, so much from different people, and it breaks my heart as well to hear all those stories, to see even recently something happened in Armenia, and don't stop blaming people for, you're like, where were you 8 years ago when this and this happened? Where were you 50 years ago when this and this happened? We are talking about the present situation. Present, right now.
Yeah.
So I know, like, you just touched a very sensitive topic. Obviously, I will try and stop here, but this is definitely a completely unique topic that can be debated on and talked about for hours.
Right.
Nothing we say, unfortunately, is going to change the world. But I just hope that there's going to be a lot of people with big hearts and will help all this refugees, like all the neighbor countries have been doing so far, my country included. But is that enough? Nothing on this planet is going to cure that humongous wound that is constantly going to bleed in the souls of people that lost what they were fighting for and working for their entire lives.
Something that you you sort of touched on is that you have friends and family from that are in different countries. That's one thing that's really incredible about Europe, is that because it's like, in the grand scheme of things, smaller than a lot of the the other continents and everything, like, you can travel really easily to different countries. Yes
and no, you are very right. However, there are other hidden little things that not many people know about. For example, citizens of Moldova, which is the country I was born in, which is the country where the band is from, we were not allowed to travel easily to Europe before. We were in need of visas, permissions, paperwork, money, so much going on just to have one vacation or one tour, little small tour. Things have changed relatively recently, I want to say 6 to something between 6 or 8 years ago, things have changed, and Moldova is still not part of the European community, but the rules and the relationship between our country and the European community have changed, and now it's a little bit easier to travel. In fact, when my band started, it was insanely difficult. We started in 2008, and for the first 4 to 5 years of our existence, we struggled with touring. Moldova is an insanely small country. The entire population of Moldova is like Las Vegas, where I live currently. It's like the city. That's how small the entire country is, right? So how many shows do you think you can do there? Maybe
Right.
2 per year, 3 max. Of course, you need to travel. So where would we travel? We would travel to our neighbors, Ukraine or Romania. So now with Ukraine and Russia, we could have traveled. There used to be a little bit easier traveling rules. So we did that, of course, but that was also something we could do only a little bit. And then, to get a visa to travel Europe, it was very tedious, very expensive, and they would only give it to you for a week or 2. And then we had to change passports so often because it was full with visas, and we just needed new passports because there was no more room. And it's crazy because it used to be very difficult, in fact, that is one of the main reasons why a band from Eastern Europe, especially a band that started in the earlier 2000s, would do smaller pieces in their career, because a lot of people that discover that my band is 13 to 14 years old now, they're like, I never heard about you. Well, it's mainly because of that, because only after a while we were able to tour some more, spread the word some more, and stuff like that.
I was gonna ask you about that. Like, how did sort of being able to have more freedom to travel once the rules got lighter, loosened a bit, how did that sort of affect the band to where now you're able to tour globally? You'll be doing a North American tour, so
don't get me wrong, there are still a lot of rules regarding certain countries, like we need special permission and visa to visit America, to visit England, to visit Latin America, to visit there are more countries right on the planet that are still very harsh and difficult to get the permission to, but it's easier right now because we have a bigger team that nobody sees. They are behind the curtains, but they do a lot for each band. So we've been independent for 10 years. 10 years we did everything by ourselves, and thanks to our fans and them believing in us, thanks to some more important people in this business that also noticed us and wanted to make a difference and help with suggesting something or booking an extra festival for us or something like that. We are insanely thankful for all these people until finally we decided to pull the trigger and sign with one of the labels that were actually a couple of labels were trying to have us under their wing, but because we were so independent for so long, it was not an easy decision for us. But when finally in 2019, in the very beginning of the year, we signed with Napalm Records, things just went a little bit different route, and it's just all it is. It's you have more people on board to make these things happen. That's all it is, because otherwise we would never be able to even have this permission, from the embassy to come to North America and have legally and with all the paperwork in place, have shows. You know what I mean? Like, people just come to your show, they pay for the ticket, they see you play, but they don't think how much you did to be there on the stage, to get there.
Right.
They don't know how many people were involved for this to happen. They don't know how much it cost you. Sometimes it costs you way more than all the tickets that were sold that night. But again, I'm not complaining. This is a dream come true. It's the best job I ever had, and I hope I will be able to do this for a long, long, long time. Well, all I'm saying is it's worth it. It's difficult, but it's worth it. Absolutely. And we appreciate every single person that wants to make a difference, comes to the show, pays the fee for the entrance, and maybe even has that extra to support with, buying your album or your t-shirt. But again, we never expect that. We never, demand that. We will never be like, oh, if you don't buy this, we're not going to sign it. We will, I don't think we will ever do anything like that to our fans, because I've been a fan of different bands and music throughout my life, and I know how it feels. So especially respectful and loving fans will always get what they deserve back all the time. And you can ask anybody from the diehard fans from Infected Rain. Nobody ever left a show like unsatisfied or
The band's been around for like about 14 years, and you said like there's people that are surprised about that. And at what point do you feel like there was a time when like you made that jump to a level where more people were starting to finally notice Infected Rain? Did you notice the time?
Oh yeah, it was a couple of times. One big step was in fact when the traveling restrictions were put down and we could travel more. That was first very, very big step, and more people were able to at least give it a try, and give it a listen or whatever. Second big step, I would say, was when we started playing next level European festivals that hold more than 50, something between 50 and 100,000 people, open airs. I'm talking about festivals that go for 3 to 5 days, that makes a big difference as well for a band. Even if you are the opening first band, it doesn't matter. I promise you, just make sure you do what you love from the heart. Be nice and prepared for the stage, rehearse, work hard. And it doesn't matter if you will play at 11 in the morning or at 11 in the night. If you're good and only 5 people will come to see you at 11 a.m., for example, because everybody's in the tent, hangover, those 5 people will spread the word. I promise you.
Right. Another thing that I love about you is that I love seeing all the pictures that you post on Instagram. Like, you yourself are like a piece of artwork, and you work with these incredible photographers. Kind of talk about what you love to do in regards to the visuals of, not just, and also with the band, with the videos, because there's been incredible videos also.
Thank you. Yeah. When it comes to the band and the band's visuals, I want to say that we are very lucky to have extremely talented and very gifted, people in the band, and the way their imagination works, man. Sometimes even I'm shocked. One of the main creators of ideas and also video content, is Vidic, our guitar player. He also is very gifted in video itself. He edits, and he studied a lot of programs for special effects and stuff like that. So it gives him an idea of what can be done and can be achieved. So we always put a lot of thought behind every single visual that we put out there. It can be photos, videos, behind the scenes, everything. That's why sometimes it takes longer for us. We don't just drop a video every day or like even every month sometimes. But however, like every single one that comes out is almost like a movie, that's very important for us. And they always have been. Since the single number 1 for the song Judgmental Trap, we had a story, we had specific locations, we had, a plot, and every single person had a role. It was like that since the beginning, When it comes to me, I think that it helped a lot. Before being a musician, I used to be a hair and makeup artist for a long time. I think. So I started very early. I was 16 when I was already working, employed, believe it or not, hairdresser. Yes, and slowly, I was. Working on my craft and becoming, better and better in what I do. I decided to do makeup as well. And then eventually I started working with a lot of photographers and models. So I started noticing that I really like the idea behind it, and being able to deliver a message, a look, an atmosphere, a mood was something that was very fascinating for me. So I started having photo shoots. In fact, I had my first one when I was 19. And yeah, so also way before the band, I've been doing that for a while, and never professionally, like hired by, I don't know, specific labels or how they are called in the modeling industry. I have no idea, but I always loved it. So it helped a lot. To know the craft of like hair and makeup, and then slowly I started like transforming clothing and putting things together, and just a lot of fun, everything that I could just express myself with. Okay, so yeah, so I still keep doing it. I love to stick with the same people when it comes to photographers, because I feel more confident, and I feel like when people know you real good and they already worked with you, if you if you have the same vibe, and it feels like I give them room for creativity and they give me room for creativity, and we just have this like amazing results. It's pretty cool.
What do you look for in a photographer that you want to work with?
All I'm looking for is acceptance. So basically, I've worked with many different photographers, but I have some photographers that I worked for years. Like one of the best examples would be Victoria Wonka, which is a very young, super talented photographer from my country. When I say young, she's not young as a photographer. She's been doing it for probably 15 years now, but she is just even younger than me when it comes to her age, but she is out of this world. She just the way she sees certain things, and she wants to grow all the time. She travels. I adore working with her. She's one of my favorite to work with. We've done calendars with her before, prints, so much. And to answer your question, what I look in a photographer is to give me room for creativity and accept me the way I am, without trying to make me more like what you would like to take pictures. Because if we chose to do this together, it's for a reason, right? And I understand first time you still, try to understand how everybody works. But yeah, if there's no vibe and we don't understand each other, or don't give each other enough freedom in creativity and in expressing ourselves, then it won't work for sure. For sure, there will be no second time.
How important is that creativity, that freedom of creativity, in both doing these photo shoots and also making music? How important is that?
It's everything. It's the key. It's everything. Because when you are expected to be someone else, or to look like someone else, or to sound like someone else, or to do something that was already done, sooner or later you will stop having fun. And when you stop having fun, this job becomes just like another job that you are like, I'm never gonna sit in the office with normal hours. With all due respect for people that actually do sit in offices and work normal hours, but you just made this creative job, this job that you could have fun, into just a job. And when it comes to music and everything connected to art, you have to forget that is a job. When you will forget that this is a job, and you will forget about, oh, I can make this amount of money on this amount of money if I do this. What if I will do this? Maybe this will bring me more money. it's not like that. It will not work for long. It might work for you for a while, but not for long.
How do you, stay yourself, when there's so many images and things online of people who look like they're on that greener side of the grass,
Mm-hmm.
and when you have, but at the same time, you have a very unique look, so how do you sort of, stay to yourself?
Well, thank you. I think this is a very good and important question. And unfortunately, there is no specific formula or rule about how to stay yourself. You know why? Because we change in time. Time is never the same again. In fact, this is another thing that I wrote about as well. Time, like me today, is not me from yesterday, and me from tomorrow. It's going to be still me, but a different version of me, right? So that's why there can't be a specific rule or formula for how to stay true to yourself. However, there are certain little tricks that you could do that will help you. So in order to stay as close as possible to what you love, to what you cherish, is to understand your values in life. Okay, and it's not easy, because we are human beings, and human beings have a lot of we have a lot of wants. We see something, we're like, oh, I wish I had that, or something, even if it's not materialistic. We talk about just anything. In order to achieve things that you want, you can write them down. That helps a lot. And you say, I really want to learn so much. For example, there's a new thing that I recently discovered, and I mean, I knew about it, but I never actually hold it and looked into it. Is tarot card reading. It's very cool, very unique. You don't even have to really know a whole lot about it. However, I even have it on written down that I want to learn more about it. And when you put certain things down about what you like, what you want, what everything, it's easier to achieve them. And that's how you stay true to yourself. Because social media is obviously fun, and it can do great things for your business, all that. And trust me, I see that the most, because it helps with the band, the communication between fans, everything. It's so helpful. But it's very easy to get lost in everything, in hatred, in jealousy, in so much, it's plain, it's out there. All of a sudden, there's a voice in your head saying, oh, look at this girl, she totally copied it from me, or whatever. I won this in a music video way before her, or something. So what? Let it happen. Let it be. You be you, and you'll come out with something new, something else. It's very easy to give in to these more I don't even know how to call them properly without insulting anybody.
These are impulses.
Yeah. It's very easy. And trust me, even I'm not a saint. I do it all the time. But the key is to try and stop yourself in time. Don't let those thoughts, mold and spread in your head and make you somebody else, and make you this constantly negative person. But this is like that in life every day. You don't have to be big on social media or being in this industry. It's every day. You can decide what to do. You can decide. This is all in your hand. When you will be like, okay, this is my life. This is my vehicle. I will sit down and be the driver. I won't just be the passenger. That's when you will be you, because you will make your own decisions.
To kind of wind things down, when a fan of Infected Rain goes to an Infected Rain show or listens to a record, watches a video, what do you hope that they get out of it?
Well, Mainly good time, a good recharge of energy. If we're talking about live shows, live performances, if we're talking about the record itself, a good reminder about how precious certain moments are, like the moment where you sit down and enjoy a song. It's a precious moment. Precious. We never pause. We never sit down. We listen to music while doing something else. Hell, there are people that watch movies like that. People watch movies and they are in their phones. People watch movies and while they cook, or you know what I mean? Which I've done it too many times. But there is time to just take that moment, give that gift to yourself. And especially if you're checking out something for the first time and it's a movie you never seen before, sit down and watch. Or, things like that. Or like it's a new record, sit down and listen. Like take that moment for yourself, because it's like listening to music while reading a book. Which one do you think you're doing at the moment? Neither.
Right.
Neither. You're not doing both. You're doing neither, because you're not going to remember even, 15% of that book, and because you're going to have other words in your head from the music, So it depends. Like obviously there are things that you could combine, like laying in a bathtub and reading. Beautiful, right? Or being outside with your dog at the park while the dog is like either running around or just sitting next to you, but outside, and you're reading a book. For example, there are things that can work together, but there are things that cannot. So what I hope for all the band listeners is that they take this gift from us and they receive it actually, and they feel it actually, the gift of music.
Awesome. This is a good spot to end things now. It's been great talking with you as always. What's what kind of break down anything that's coming up for you and the band?
Well, other than the tours, I would say just stay healthy and take good care of yourselves, because we need you. And see you all on tour.
Great. Where can people go online to get more information about both you and the band?
Well, obviously you can just Google it. It's super easy. But I think that the best place to see the most information in one spot together would be the band's official website, which in our case is infectedrain.com.
Awesome. It's been great talking with you. Good luck with everything. Be safe. And hopefully I can make it to one of the North American tour dates, because every time you've come to the Detroit area, I've missed the show, whether you're opening or not. Like, so hopefully next time you're in Michigan, I can make it to the show. Yeah, hopefully I'll see you there. Thank you so much for having me. All right, great. You have a good day. All right, thanks. Too. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. All right, everybody. That was my interview with Lena Scissorhands from the band Infected Rain. Please check them out. They're a great metal band. And this is the first... thanks for tuning in to the Fresh as the Word TV. This is the first episode. We'll have the show archived on the Fresh as the Word YouTube channel, and also the audio will be on the Fresh as the Word podcast feed. And I'll be probably posting clips on all the social media. If you're lurking right now on Twitch, please hit the follow and notification button so you can check out future episodes. I'm going to be doing other things too on Twitch eventually. I'm kind of floating around town right now, so I'm kind of bare bones with my setup. So once I get everything more solidified in my life, then we'll have more Twitch things going on. But it's been great talking with you, and please thanks for everybody who tuned in, who's listening to this maybe later on. Please go to twitch.tv/K or Fresh as the Word TV, and please share it if you want. You can also just check out my socials. Twitter and Instagram is KFresh Detroit, and that's probably the best places to find me. And it's been great. It was great talking with Lena, and I'm glad to get this first episode out of the way after a bit of a hiatus. All right, so that's all, and have a great day, everybody.